Thank you.
Great. Okay. Hi, everybody. Adrienne Etherton, Sustainability Manager for the City of Brisbane, here to talk about our Brisbane Building Efficiency Program, which is indeed a beyond benchmarking policy. And I don't have a slide in here about the size of Brisbane, but those of you in the Bay Area probably recognize that Brisbane is a very small city. We actually have less than 5,000 residents, but we do have a much more substantial commercial sector. So I'll just start off with a little bit more context. We have, of course, a climate action plan in Brisbane that initially identified a measure to address our emissions from our existing buildings, which you can see here in blue represent nearly 40% of our emissions in town. We were able to get a grant from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District in 2018 to really move this program forward. Through the hiring of consultants who helped us pull together an ordinance and work to implement it. So we started that work doing a market analysis, and wasn't really much of a surprise to us in town, but just really demonstrated how significant a portion of our building stock is industrial buildings. Those are shown here in blue. And you may recall that Cliff mentioned that these are often buildings that are omitted from other jurisdictions' programs. But for Brisbane to really have a meaningful program, we felt it was important to keep them in. So that also led to some other necessary innovations in kind of doing our community outreach. We learned that a lot of those industrial buildings are single tenant warehouse spaces that are leased, and existing data access provisions were going to make it very hard for building owners to complete the benchmarking and future improvement requirements. So it was important for us to figure out how we got the tenants involved to make sure the program was going to be successful. So we ended up extending some of the requirements to tenants in certain ways, following a model that Washington, D.C. already had in place. But we also wanted to, make sure that we made it easy for folks to in those kind of buildings to work together towards compliance. So we added this compliance option of adopting a green lease to incentivize and enable owners and tenants to work together and implement further improvements to their buildings easier in the future. And we're really going to lean heavily on Cliff's organization, IMT's excellent green lease resources to support that. We also request additional reporting on any current or planned distributed energy resources to help us understand how those resources may develop in the future or where we may have opportunities to support them. So to talk through exactly what is required, we have our annual benchmarking requirements, which started in 2021 for all buildings 10,000 square feet or more, commercial, industrial, and multifamily. And that is a much lower threshold than many of the other cities, due in large part to our size and the size of the buildings that we have in town. But what really, brings me here today is the beyond benchmarking phase, which will start next year for commercial buildings and the following year for industrial and residential buildings. And this is, not a true building performance standard, but it does include a performance path, which is kind of the pre-BEPS approach to trying to get buildings to demonstrate higher performance or start to make improvements. So if a building is new, they will kind of have a pass for that first cycle and will be folded in the next round. And otherwise, buildings that can demonstrate that they're high performing will be able to avoid some of the other requirements that come under the prescriptive paths. So they'll have to prove that they are energy and water efficient. Our benchmarking program includes both energy and water reporting. And they have a few different ways that they can do that, from high Energy Star scores or low greenhouse gas emissions intensities, or either of those categories that have made significant improvements. We also incorporated LEED existing buildings operations and maintenance certification, and then on-site distributed energy resources, which includes things like grid interactive buildings, really wanting to do that, resilience and grid supporting effort. On the water efficiency side, fewer options there, really just Energy Star water score that is over 80 or water use intensity that has been significantly reduced. So for buildings that aren't meeting those requirements, you'll fall into the prescriptive path. It'll start off with audit requirements. We split them up to really make sure that cost benefit was going to be there for folks. So bigger buildings larger than 40,000 square feet will do a standard ASHRAE level 2 audit. But then our smaller buildings will do a simpler audit with the DOE asset score full. They'll submit their audit report to us, and then they have the next 5-year cycle to take action, which might be retro commissioning or the green lease that I mentioned, if that is something that's applicable to their situation, or doing an energy and water measure, either something identified in their audit or something on our approved list. So with our performance pathway and any building performance standards metrics program metrics are going to be really important, and the context really matters for us. And many of you around the Bay Area, we have really clean energy sources. For us, it's with Peninsula Clean Energy, which supplies the vast majority of our customers and is already emissions-free electricity. So we wanted to look at a site's greenhouse gas intensity rather than looking at energy use or energy use intensity, to really make sure that we're focused on the emissions reductions that we're going for and not penalizing anybody who might be electrifying or adding EV charging on site and seeing energy use go up. Obviously, energy efficiency is still important, and measures to support that are still available and would help to meet this goal too. But rates and other economic factors in the marketplace can help also to limit inefficient electrification. Energy Star scores are a great and really easily understandable metric for building owners that incorporates a lot of different factors about the building and its operations, and normalizes across building types and with weather. So we included that metric as an option, and as I mentioned, also distributed energy resources. As far as the expected impacts of the ordinance in Brisbane, this is what we estimated when we developed our ordinance. We're right around 100 buildings, over 6 million square feet affected by the ordinance. You can see the majority of that is going to be subjected to those ASHRAE level 2 audits. However, the majority of buildings by number, those smaller buildings, have that simpler asset score pathway. And then using data available from studies of the impacts of benchmarking, auditing, retro commissioning, and other local ordinances at the time, we estimated the emissions reductions we might achieve in the first 5 years. These impacts probably look really small for the larger cities listening, but it's a good first step for us. And we really expect reductions to continue to grow as these beyond benchmarking requirements continue and potentially evolve in future cycles. Our first year of compliance, we had about an 88% overall compliance rate. You can see there's a big chunk with data quality issues, a lot of them things that we asked to clean up and do better in year 2. We did have folks doing better this year, but we still had some folks who we're working with to verify or correct data. But we are looking at an overall compliance reporting rate of 94% this year, which we are super proud of. We recently posted our program dashboard. Building transparency is a big part of these programs, as Cliff mentioned. You can come in here on our website and click on any building and see what their status is and get a high-level look at their energy and water usage. We really hope that's going to help with the market transformation that we're looking for. And then I would just note some of these numbers aren't necessarily going to match up to what I just showed, because this dashboard doesn't yet update automatically, so it's a little behind. Just some quick trends and lessons learned. It definitely required a lot of outreach to get this program up and running. I was really fortunate to have a Climate Corps fellow and a sustainability intern who did, just a ton of phone calls and emails, talking with people, helping them learn about the program, get familiar with the requirements, and really doing a lot of hand-holding to help them complete those requirements in the first couple of years. Especially for the smaller companies, but we learned that some of the larger folks still needed a lot of help as well. We did have a lot of issues following up on data that we needed to do. We had the misfortune of having our first reporting year be 2020, which was not a normal year. And we had a lot of folks who had, really interesting data, weird, extremely low EUI from, building vacancies and things of that sort. And, with all of these things, we found that we just really needed to be patient. You rolling out these new requirements, you really want to just help building owners see them get their reports in, have good data quality, and not necessarily be so focused about getting it in on time. That said, at some point in time, you've really got to get the attention of folks who aren't getting it in. So we did last month send our first notices of violation, which got the attention of some of the folks who were ignoring us before. And we may have a couple of our first citations coming out pretty soon. We just started converting our program management software, so I'm excited when that is complete in the next couple of months to be able to take a closer look at evaluating how buildings have improved year over year and getting that beyond benchmarking process built out. We're also looking forward to improved communications with our building reps by sending them scorecards of their current status, which pathway we believe they're on, and then resources for that beyond benchmarking work that's coming. We are also looking at existing building reach codes. So, really just when we're building that out, making sure that this program is working with those in a 1-2 punch towards existing building decarbonization. And then just in closing, I wanted to share our website here for the program. You can find the dashboard there along with a lot of other program info. And as part of our Air District grant, we compiled a toolkit of how we built our program and things to consider for anyone that might be interested in replicating this approach. I will look forward to answering questions during the Q&A in a bit, but if you'd like to reach me directly, you can see my email here on the screen. Thanks so much.